Thank you for visiting the YouTube channel for bestbiblecommentaries.com. In this video, I'd like to show you one of the best reviewed commentaries on the book of Ephesians. Before I do, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to this channel to see videos on Bible commentaries, study Bibles, and other resources that help people understand God's Word. Scholar S.M. Baugh is the author of Ephesians in the Evangelical Exegetical Commentary series. This volume was published in 2016. It is 648 pages in length. Dr. Baugh is a professor at Westminster Theological Seminary in California. He is part of the Orthodox Presbyterian Church, and he is Reformed. Dr. Baugh wrote the study notes in the Ephesians section of the ESV Study Bible, the popular ESV Study Bible. So if you have that study Bible and you've read through Ephesians and you've consulted the notes, then perhaps you have already learned from Dr. Baugh without realizing it. Dr. Baugh was kind enough to do a question and answer for me on my website, bestbiblecommentaries.com, and I'll put a link in the description box below so you can see that, read through that question and answer on this volume after this video is over. The EEC series, if you're not familiar with it, relative to other commentary series, is relatively young. But volumes that have been released so far have been generally well-reviewed, and this is one of the most well-reviewed volumes in the series to date. The example section that I'll show you is from Ephesians chapter 4. Each section begins with the title. This one is Paul's exhortation to unity in love, followed by an introduction. Then there is an outline, followed by the original text, and that's in Greek. After the original text, in every passage in the commentary, there's textual notes. And the discussion in textual notes usually revolves around manuscripts and textual variants and those kind of conversations. Following that notes section is the English translation and then the commentary. Now we get into the verse-by-verse commentary section. The verses are listed in bold on the left-hand side of a page, so Ephesians 4:3 is here. What Baugh does is he writes the Greek first, followed by the English translation in quotations, and then provides the commentary. And he does that for every verse. Now let me show you how passages commonly end in the commentary. Application and devotional implications is one of the last sections, and this section I think is going to be particularly helpful to pastors who are seeking to communicate the relevance of the text in a ministry setting. Application and devotional implications is a great place to get started thinking through that in relation to each passage in Ephesians. There are also, to end each passage, additional exegetical comments as well as a bibliography section. This is a technical commentary, so Greek lettering will appear, Greek words with Greek lettering, not transliterated in other words, will appear in the main body of the text. Now, in a certain section, in a particular section, Dr. Baugh will offer Greek and then the English translation immediately after it. When he's discussing it in context after that, he might just use the Greek without again providing an English translation, but he does provide the English translations at the beginning of the conversations. S.M. Baugh's, one of his areas of expertise is the Greek language. He discusses this more in the question and answer he did with me, so I just encourage you to read that to learn about his extensive background with the Greek language. One of the reasons this commentary is well-reviewed is because what can sometimes happen with technical commentaries, and S.M. Baugh even states this, is that the commentary can become fragmented because the writer, the commentator, is discussing every detail of the text, which is the purpose of a technical commentary, but sometimes the larger message can get lost in a technical commentary. The forest kind of gets lost for the trees. One of the reasons why this commentary is well reviewed is because there is a great flow in the commentary as Dr. Baugh discusses the details of the text, but never loses sight of the larger message of the passage or the book. So that's not always done real well in technical commentaries, but in this particular one, this is one of the reasons why this commentary is well reviewed. A couple of example passages that I'd like to discuss that I think that people who are considering a commentary on Ephesians might want to know about. What does the author think about Ephesians 1, 4, and 5, which talks about, for he chose us in him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in his sight. In love he predestined us to be adopted as his sons through Jesus Christ in accordance with his pleasure and will. Now, this is one of those passages where you can begin to learn about an author's theology based on their comments on that particular text, and the word chose and the word predestined in particular. So what does Dr. Baugh think about this particular passage? Well, as I said before, S.M. Baugh is Reformed, and he affirms the doctrines of election and predestination within that theological tradition. So that's how he will approach Ephesians 1, 4, and 5. I'll just also add that Dr. Baugh interacts with other commentators, and he interacts with other scholars that he disagrees with in this volume to have a discussion about different subjects. But I notice, too, when he's quoting from somebody who it aligns with his position and his theology regarding a passage, he will often quote, not surprisingly, Reformed thinkers. Michael Horton, Sinclair Ferguson, John Calvin. He will quote to help explain positions that he advocates for. So what about, here, just a second example, Ephesians 5, 22 and 22 through 33, and the well-known passage about marriage and submit to one another, and verse 21, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Verse 22, wives, submit to your husbands. Verse 25, husbands, love your wives. Okay, that particular passage. What does Dr. Baugh think about that particular passage? This section of the commentary was a little bit surprising to me in a positive way. Dr. Baugh gets into a discussion on what marriage looked like in the first century, and I thought it was well done and very insightful regarding first century history. He talked about wives marrying at the average age from between 12 and 17 years old, the average being about 14 years old. Men on average married from age 18 to 30, somewhere in there. He talked about women having multiple children as teenagers and how their health was often negatively affected by that. He talked about how women's lifespan in the first century was 35 years old, and today it's around 80 or 81. And he goes through this history, and he's just making an argument that readers, we need to keep these things in mind, that we're not talking so much about marriage in the first century. It doesn't look like marriage in the 21st. So I hope this video has been helpful to you in understanding more about this Ephesians commentary by S.M. Baugh. Thank you for watching it. Thank you for visiting bestbiblecommentaries.com.